Hi, good evening, everybody.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
Sorry to make you wait. Okay.
Hello, Rabbi.
How are you, Abraham?
Hello, you.
How are you, Abraham's son?
Hi.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's fine. You like what he said? All right, thank you, buddy. Can you shut up already?
How are you, David?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Okay, thank God. Okay, we're getting started. All right, here we go. With Yosef.
What are you doing?
Rabbi, are you going to live stream?
I gotta get a fork in a knife.
Yeah, 1 second.
Disgusting.
I don't know why I put up with this.
Yeah, put up tonight. You're starting again. I can't even. Leave me alone.
Okay, took care of that, the noise.
Thank you. You see that on the bottom, you see the three dots where it says,
Yeah, maybe we'll do that later, next time.
okay, sure.
It's going to take time probably to get into that whole thing.
Okay.
Next time. So, okay. We'll get started. Okay. So we're starting with Lamed Daled and Lamed Hey, right? That seems to be where we stopped. We did Lamed Gimel last time. Okay. So it says in Bet Yosef like this. The had the shara lichtov shte otiyot chutz leshita. So that's what we said last time, that you're allowed to write two letters that stick out of the line. Dafka keshenam teva echad. That's only when it's not one word. But if it's one word, kagon o, like for instance, the word o, which is only two letters, or which means or, right? Al or al, right? Which is also two letters. Things like this. You shouldn't write that outside the margin, outside the line. That's what he's saying. Like it says in Tur Yerodea, Siman Reish An Gimel, because over there it's talking about the laws of Sefer Torah. The Od Nitba'er, but it says also, it's also explained the Tur, over the Tur in this car, in that Tur, Siman Reish Ein Vav, Sheotiot Hashem Tzarich Sheyu Kulam Betoch Hadaf. Also, names of God have to be always inside the margin, right? Because I guess it's more important, right? More prominent. So it should never be sticking out of the out of the line, out of the margin, whatever you want to call it. Never sticking out. Okay, there you go. So that was the two halachot there we just learned. Lamed Dal, Lamed Hey. So we'll go into the Shulchan Aruch. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, a very short one. Bet otiyot shem teva echad. So it says if you have two letters, which happens to be one name, one word, right? Two letters, which is one word. Lo yichtzerem chutz hashita. It should never be sticking out of the margin. That's what it says. I'm sorry, just somebody can't get in. Okay. So that's very simple. We're going to go now to the next Shulchan Aruch, which is Lamed Hey. So it says there like this. Otiyot Hashem, also write the letters, as we said, the names of God. It has to be all of them inside the margin, as we said, right? It should never be sticking out of the margin. That's the idea. That's what he says. Okay. So any questions about that? It's pretty simple, no? Okay, let's go on. So we'll go to Lamed Vav. This one is an important one, by the way. And this has to do with what David asked about the other day, which is regarding, there's a difference between the Ashkenazi and Sephardi Tefillin, So the fundamental difference is the way it's written. The shapes of the letters are a little bit different. But that's okay, because either way it's kosher. In other words, the Sephardi one is kosher for the Ashkenazi, and the Ashkenazi one is kosher for the Sephardi. That's okay, that's not a big deal. But it's a minhag. So it's better to buy your own minhag if you can. But if you have an Ashkenazi writing letters and you're a Sephardi, it's still kosher. It's okay. You're fulfilling your obligation with that. But there's another issue, right, which is not like that, which is that how you write the parshiot in terms of how you structure them. That's what we're going to talk about now. Okay, so we're going to go to the Torah and first read the Torah and then go to Bet Yosef, because there's some Ashkenazim, what they do, I heard especially Chabad, that they do it like the Taz, which is not like the Shulchan Aruch, and therefore, according to Shulchan Aruch, the way if they do it like the Taz, it's pasul for according to Shulchan Aruch. And this is the reason why you have to be careful. If you're buying tefillin from Ashkenazim, make sure for sure, right? You don't get if you're Sephardi, make sure you don't get like the Taz, because otherwise for you it's pasul. This is the problem, The Rabbi used to warn about this also. He used to warn us about this. Okay, so anyway, right, let's get into it now and we'll see what exactly we're talking about. So the Torah says like this, V'aseh kol ha'parshiot ptuchot, right? So it says that the Torah, right, who was himself Ashkenazi, okay? He says you should make all the parshiot open, right? That's called open. It's like a term, and we'll see what that means. De'ainu she'yash'ir b'sof hashita chalak gimel tevot. That means you have to leave at the end of the line empty space for 3 words. Shel gimel otiyot, of 3 letters. Each letter has 3 words. So 3 times 3. You have to leave that open. That's called an open parsha. Parsha ptucha. Or right the other way, b'tchilato chutz parsha achrona, in the beginning, except the last parsha, she'ases tuma, they should make it closed. They have said it that. Okay, you came in. Okay, good. So they have said dal batim. So you should make 4 batim, right? Okay, so pretty much we read in the Torah what it says here, and then we'll now read Bet Yosef what he means by this. Try to explain this a little bit more in detail. Right, so we said, right, this It says in the Torah, you should make all the parshiot open. Except the last one. You should make the last one closed. That's what we're saying, right? That's the way it's supposed to be according to the Torah. Ken kataba rosh. That's what the rosh says also. Beseder tikkun tefillin, right? The ken katab mordechai, the sefer orchot chaim, and also the sefer orchot chaim. The ken katab Rambam, also Rambam. So all the Rishonim seem to agree here, the earlier authorities, that this is the way it has to be done. Perek bet. It's over the laws of tefillin. V'zeh lashano. This is the language of the Rambam. Rambam says like this: but tzarich lizaher the parshiot. You have to be careful with the parshiot in the tefillin. Sheim asas tuma ptucha. If you make the one that's supposed to be closed open, right? Or ptuchas tuma, or you made the one that's supposed to be open, you made it closed. Pesulin, it's pasul. You can't do it the wrong way. You have to do it the right way. So it says the Rambam, the shalosh parshiot harishonot, the first three parshiot, kulam ptuchot, they have to be all open. Right, that's the way it is. Parsha achrona, and the last parsha, shehi v'haya im shamua, which is this parsha, the second paragraph of the Shema, right? Stuma, that one has to be closed. That's the way it has to be done. So you see from there that the Rambam and the Torah and the Rosh, they all agree it's one opinion. That's the way it is. Very good. Okay, so then he goes on. The Kashiri, so says the Maran, Yosef, difficult for me a little bit, this Rambam. Why? Midyamin the comments, because it says in the Gemara, in Menachot, Lamed Bet Amud Aleph, the mezuzah ose parshiotea stumot. So it says regarding mezuzah, you should make the parshiot closed. And if you made them open, kshera, it's kosher. So you see, right, that it doesn't really say it's pasul if you did it the wrong way. Because they're not. What's the reason why? Because he says since these parshiot are not really juxtaposed in the Torah, they're far away from each other, so they don't really have like a juxtaposition. These parshiot physically, in the Torah. So therefore, it's not a big deal. But diavad, it's kosher. That's what he says. So it says, okay, that was regarding mezuzah, right? That's all we're talking about. By the way, what's in the mezuzah? Just we should know, right? It's basically right the two first paragraphs of the Shema. That's what we have there. That's the mezuzah, right? In the Tefillin we have four paragraphs, four parshiot. That's the difference between Tefillin and mezuzah. So basically, right, the mezuzah is like a half a Tefillin, right? Whatever, right? That's what it is. Okay, because Tefillin has two more, double. Okay, so he says, right, that so when it comes to Tefillin, what's the story? Bishtama Parshat Kadesh Parshat V'haya Ki Yaviacha. Okay, I understand. When it comes to these two parshiot, right, Shen Smuchot, they're juxtaposed in the Torah. By the way, we just read it recently, right, in the Parsha Shavua, right? These two. It's in Exodus, right? These two. So right, since they're juxtaposed, right? The Torah din hu sheim sheina pasul. So therefore, if you change these two and made it the wrong way, that would be pasul because they're juxtaposed actually physically in the Torah. That's what he's saying. Aval, but Shema or Parsha v'hayim Shamua. But these two parshiot which are in the Shema, the first paragraph, second paragraph. They're not really juxtaposed in the Torah. They're different places altogether, right? Amai pasul. So then, why is it pasul when it comes to tefillin? That's the question he's asking. Very good question. Okay, if he's changed it, why is it pasul if he changed it? So he says, perhaps the answer is like this. Since when it comes to some of the parshiot, as we mentioned, the first two, if you change it, it's pasul. Therefore, we don't make a differentiation. In other words, it's like all or nothing, right? That's pretty much what he's saying. Since it's already 50% like that, it's 100%. You can't have it in the middle. So that's one possible answer that he gives. Interesting. Okay, so therefore, right, the rule is that whatever, bottom line is that when it comes to mezuzah, you made it the wrong way, b'diavad it's kosher. But when it comes to tefillin, if you made it the wrong way, it's pasul. That's the difference between one and the other. Okay. Let's go on. So it says, "Umash katab Rabbeinu b'ptucha." So that which Rabbeinu said, the Tur, what he defines what's ptucha. What is an open parsha? What does that mean? Hainu sheishaer b'sof hashita. That means that at the end of the line, chalak, there's leave a blank space for 3 words of 3 letters, right? Each one 3 letters. So altogether 9 letters, right? 3 words, 3 times 3. Right. שלוש תיבות, 3 אותיות. כלומר, והפרשה שאחריה יתחיל בראש שיטה. So you know what that means? That the parsha, which is afterwards, is going to start right in the beginning of the margin. There's not going to be any blank space there, right? No blank space. Right at the beginning of the line. ואז נקראת פרשה זו המתחילת בראש השיטה. So he says, then, when that parsha begins, right, at the beginning of the line, the next parsha, right, that's called parsha ptucha. That's called open parsha. That's what's called open. So again, right, just to make it clear for you, so you don't get confused. What are we saying over here? According to Bet Yosef, what it means is that ptucha means that the parsha before, right, the one you did first, whatever, the one before, you left over there at the end of the parsha enough blank space for 3 words of 3 letters each one. 9 letters altogether. You have to leave enough blank space. And then the next parsha, the following parsha, starts at the beginning of the line. No margin, no blank space there. That's called ptucha. Okay? וכן הוא בדיבר, it says הוא את פרשת פתוחה, הוא בין בדיבר הרמב"ם, whether it's the Rambam, בדיבר ראש, so the Rambam and the Rosh here are the same שיטה, same opinion. אבל מה שכתב, או בתחילתו, but that which he said, right, at the beginning, דהיינו לומר, it means to say that, שאם לא נשאר בסוף שיטה, that if it wasn't left over at the end of the line, חלק, כשיעור, like, לכתוב 9 אותיות, you didn't leave enough blank space there to write 9 letters, as we said, right? לא יתחיל פרשה שאחריה בראש שיטה. So then, if you don't have that enough blank space there, then what you have to do is don't begin the following parsha at the beginning of the line. You have to put some slack there. אלא יניח חלק כדי לכתוב 9 אותיות. So then what you do is you have to leave over there the 9 letters, right? The blank space in the next parsha. In other words, if you weren't able to do the parsha before, on the bottom, at the end, 9 letters of blank. So you got to do it in the parsha after on the top, 9 letters of blank. Following me? I hope you are. Okay. Okay, so that's the way he's saying over here, Bet Yosef. Interesting. And by the way, now let's try to explain, right? According to this, why is it called ptucha? Why is it called an open parsha? Right? Because you have there like a blank space there, So you have a place to like escape, it's open. The door is open. That's why we call it open. Because you have like a blank margin left over there with nothing there. 9 letters. So there's a place to run off if you want to run off, right? That's the idea. That's why it's called open. Okay. Then he continues. ושם יתחיל וזה דווקא לדעת הראש, but he says that's according to the Rosh. בהלכות ספר תורה and laws of ספר תורה. אבל לדעת הרמב"ם, but he says according to Rambam though, פרק ח', right, in laws of תפילין, כל כי הגבנה סתומה היא. So he says no, according to Rambam that doesn't help you. In other words, it doesn't help you to do the next parsha with a margin there, not 9 letters, because you didn't do it in the parsha before. It doesn't help you. According to Rosh, it helps you. You know what I mean? But according to Rambam, this doesn't help. So you see, right, that there's already a little bit of a nuance of a difference between the Rosh and the Rambam. Not exactly the same thing. So then he goes on to say, so now says Maran Bet Yosef that the minhag, the custom, is like to do like this, okay? The first 2 parshiot, which is Kadeshli, and then Ve'ayam Kivyacha, these 2 parshiot, Parshat Shema, also the Shema, the third one, Matchilin Berosh Shita. We start that at the beginning of the line. We don't leave a margin on the top. Everything is filled, everything is in the beginning. Parshat Kadeshli, but it says in the end of Kadeshli, Parshat Ve'ayam Kivyacha, right? And in the end of the first 2 parshiot, so we leave open space for 9 letters, like we said, right? That's the way it has to be done. This is a minhag. Parashat Shema, right? In the end of Shema, he says, right, which is the third parsha, according to Rashi, right? We're not doing according to Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam is different, right? So with Rashi, it's the third parsha, right? Parashat Shema, and manichin chalak klal. So over there, we don't leave any open space at all. Why is that? Because and if you do leave something a little bit, right, because sometimes you have no choice, you can't always get it the way you want. It doesn't come out always the way you wanted. So it has to be then less than 9 letters, right, of open space. This is the minhag, he says. Okay. Parashat Ve'ayam Shamua, and what about Yavayam Shamua? The last parsha. Matchilin be'emtza shita. Oh, so there, what we do is we start in the middle of the line. Why is that? Because that one has to be stuma, right? It has to be closed. You have to leave like the open space. For 9 letters, you gotta leave over space. So so comes out that the first 3 parshiot are open. So what does that mean? It's open. The margin is left over, the blank space on the bottom of the parsha before. That's called open. Ben Rambam, Ben Rosh. Whether it's Rambam Rosh, regarding this, they all agree. With Parashat Acharona, but the last parasha, Noagim Kedivei Rambam. Then we do like the Rambam, not like the Rosh. He says, right? Why? Why is that? So he says it's not possible to do it, that it should be closed. You can't do it according to both opinions. There's no way to do that, right? Because they contradict each other. So therefore, they made the Rambam Ikar, right? That's the main halacha. Okay, good. The Katav Rabbeinu Abraham Asan Asofer. Right, this rabbi was a sofer, so he writes, "Sharab Gadol Mareno Maravitzak De Leon." Oh, De Leon. Sounds familiar to somebody? De Leon. Okay, we have a De Leon.
Yes, my last name.
Yeah, that sounds familiar, no? Rings the bell. Okay, okay. I wish my name was in the Bet Yosef, but my name is not there. I'm sorry, but okay. All right, I wasn't Zoche. What can I tell you? Okay, so. It says, right, so he says all the rabbis agreed with him in that generation. Pasal kol tefillin shayu b'Sfarad. Oh, he puzzled all the tefillin that were in Spain. Shayu parshioten al pi data rosh. Why is that? Because they were doing according to the Rosh. Mipnei she'asefet Torah hayu ptuchot ustumot shenayam. Says because why? Because the Sefer Torah was open and closed al pi data Rambam, according to Rambam. Nimtza she'oleh likrot b'Torah. So it comes out when you come out to read the Torah in tefillin with tefillin. Yeah, this is really funny, right? You're coming up to read the Torah in the morning, and you have your tefillin on, right? Like everybody does in the morning, shachrit, right? Sheparshiyoten Kedat HaRosh. So what's going to be there? Right? Who made Neged Sefer Torah? The problem is you have a contradiction between your Tefillin and the Sefer Torah, right? The Tefillin is one way, and the Sefer Torah is a different way. That's really funny. When I said Torah, Kishtet Torah, so therefore you're making like two halachot. Contradiction. That's not good. We don't want that. Right? Making two halachot over there. So what does that mean? The Tefillin is like the Rosh in the Spain, right? That's the way it was. And the Sefer Torah was like the Rambam. So therefore, these rabbis, they got together and they said, you know what? You got to change that, the Tefillin, make it like the Rambam. Don't do it like the Rosh. By the way, the question is like this, right? I ask you guys now, right? This is a $1 million question, a trick question. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, right? How is it that in Spain, which is a Sephardi country, right? This Sephardi country, right? Why were they doing like the Rosh and not like the Rambam, right? After all, the Rambam was born in Spain. He was Sephardi. So why were they doing like the Rosh? The Rosh was Ashkenazi. Good question, huh? So the answer is that, as I told you guys before, whatever, sometime, somewhere, I mentioned it somewhere. But what happened was that in Sfarad, in Spain, there was a period, after the Rashba passed away, whatever, the Rashba, who was the late great, he was the latest great authority there, one of the great authorities. So what happened was that they didn't really have like a rabbi who was, on that level, a big chacham, like the Rashba, somebody like big like that. So what happened was that since they had no chacham, they decided to go into import a rabbi, importation. So what they do, they went to Germany, they called the Rosh. They told the Rosh, okay, come and be our rabbi, in Spain, So the Rosh went to Spain and became a chief rabbi there. This is what happened. Okay? So because of that, many of the customs in Spain became like the Rosh. Understand? And this is the reason why they were doing like the Rosh over there, because he was the chief rabbi there for a while, for quite a long while. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. You have to put Latin in there, you put Toby in there, you put Jordan in there.
Okay, so let's go on. Katab Mari Abu Hab. So can you imagine how God-fearing these rabbis were, They didn't like the fact that the Tefillin contradicted the Sefer Torah. So they made them change it. Incredible. Okay, the Katab Mari Abu Hab says Mari Abu Hab, She'afa pi she'parshat Kadesh Li. Nekar, even though this Parshat Kadesh Li is recognizable, Shehi Ptucha, that it's open, the fish en katub kodem la davar, because there's nothing before that, right? So obviously it's open. Beinach devshar etakunem etaknim. So he says, but anyway, whatever we can fix, we fix. What does that mean? Parashat Kodesh Kadesh tikare ptucha. So it's called open. This Kadesh, the fish shahid atchalat tefillin. That's the beginning of the tefillin. It's open. Then kodem la davar. There's nothing before that, right? That's the first parasha. V'chen katav Mari ibn Chaviv. That's what it says all of this rabbi. Shematza b'kirat sefer. He found in this book, the Rav Menachem lebet Meir, right? This rabbi, whatever. Sheparshiot sheberashia chamisha sfarim. The parshiot, which are in the beginning of the first books of the Torah, the 5 books of the Torah, Chumash. En makom lekalam. So there's no reason, there's no place to include them. There's no issue there to say it's open or closed because it's in the beginning. Because it's the beginning of the book. He says also you can also infer that from the fact that the Rambam didn't mention that. What he says. So what happened was that he said that this part of the Chumash, Yerakia, was open. Be've'ele Shemot, also this part of the Chumash, second book, he started from there. וכן בשאר ספרים, also in other books, לא זכר הפרשיות הראשונות. He didn't mention the first ones. Why didn't he mention the first ones? Because they're not really included since there's nothing before them. Right? וכן בנידון שלנו, so it's also here in our discussion as well, כיוון שהתחלת התפילין מפרשת קדש אין צורך, so since in the beginning of the tefillin, the first parsha from Kadesh, אין צורך לעשות בה סימן. There's no reason to make a siman there to mark it like it's open, because it's not relevant. The only thing we can do, he says, is just to start in the beginning of the line, right? Leave no margin in the beginning. And it's like we're doing like a half a job. And that's also, that's the best we can do, so we do that. So we start beginning of the first page, right? The galui v'yadua, so it's known. L'chol shehu ptucha, whatever is open. Kiban de ben Rambam ben Rosh, whether according to Rambam Rosh, techilat shita he siman ptucha. That when you're writing the beginning of the line, that means that it's called ptucha, open. V'rawi lezaher b'siyum parshat kadesh. So it says, but you should be careful. It says proper to be careful. At the end of a parshat kadesh. V'siyum parshat v'hayam ki v'yachar, and also the second parsha, shetiyeh kol echad mehem be'emtza shita. It should start in the beginning of the shita, in the middle of the shita of the line. Upatchot ve'uptuchot. It should be open. V'haya ki v'yachar yeh noda b'shnei tenaim. So he says. And this parsha is going to be known for because of two things, right? Ha'echad ki miyamim yamima sof kadesh. So it says because when it says yamim yamima, which is sof kadesh, yeah, be'emtza shita, it's going to be in the middle of the line. But Sonin Omar says, I want to say, she'yishaer chalak, it should be open, at least for 9 letters, as we said, right? A margin, nothing, 9 letters, right? Hasheni she'atchil v'haya ki v'yachad. Second one starts like this. Roshita, you can start in the beginning of the line. We show now the first line. Shel Amud Sheni for the second parchment. Also the end of that as well. Try to finish in the middle of the line, because you have to leave some slack, as we said. Right? Parshat Shema. What about Shema, the third parsha? Rosh Shita Rishona. It's going to be the beginning of the first line. Shel Amud Shlishi. And Shel Amud Shlishi of the third parchment. So you see from here, so there's a good way to do like a sign which makes it open. For all the 3 parshiot. So it says it's equal according to Rambam. There's no differentiation between the Rambam and the Rosh regarding that halakha. Omnam, לעשות פרשת והיה כי אם שמוע סתומה, but he says to do this parsha, והיה אם שמוע, if you want to do it closed, אליבא דתרוויו, but if you want to do it according to both opinions, the Rosh and the Rambam, הוא נמנע מפני שכיוון שאינו יכול לכתוב בעמוד אחד סוף השמע ותפילת והיה אם שמוע. There's no way to do that, right? There's no way to do according to both opinions. Why is that? Because שכיוון שאינו יכול לכתוב בעמוד Echad, since you can't write on one page, one parchment, the end of Shema and the beginning of V'hayam Shemua, there's no way to do that. You can't do that. In Ken Data Rambam, so it says, therefore, according to Rambam, who echreach she'atchil V'hayam Shemua b'emtza shita. So therefore, you must begin in the middle of the line, the V'hayam Shemua, because it's closed. But according to Rosh, though, that's called open. Right? So he says you would need, according to his opinion, that this page, the parchment of V'hayam Shemua, you should leave one line kalak, like one line totally open. In the beginning of the page. And afterwards, in the second line, don't begin in the beginning of the line. והיה עם שמוע, this parsha, והמנהג היותר מרווח. So he says, what's the proper custom? שראוי לנהוג ללכת בשלו בגלויות, נהגו כמותו. So that's how they do, like what we just said. בדבר הזה, להתחיל פרשת והיה עם שמוע באמצע שיטה. So what do? The proper minhag is that the last parsha, the fourth one, והיה עם שמוע, they begin in the middle of the line. What does that mean? They leave 9 spaces open, as we said. שיטה ראשונה, the first line, של עמוד האחרון of the last parchment. כל זה ציור סתומה לדת הרמב"ם. This comes out according to Rambam. He says, this is the way, according to Rambam, you do it. That's the way it's done. ועל כל פנים צריך להיזהר כשיסיים ובשעריך, but he says, nevertheless, you have to be careful when he finishes the whole last parsha, which ends in the word bisharecha, in your gates, right? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the shehi so parshat Shema, right? Yes, the end. Yeah, I'm sorry. The end of Shema. שלא יעשה כמו בסוף שני הפרשיות. You should not do like the end of the 2 parshiyot הקודמות that came before that. שמסיים בהם באמצע השיטה. Because over there you're ending in the bottom, in the middle of the line, because you're leaving 9 spaces open. כדי להורות על הפתוחות, because you want to make it open. That's the whole thing. Right? The parshiyot, הסמוכות, the parsha which is next to it is open. להן. אבל, ובשעריך, but it says the word בשעריך, שבסוף שמה, which is in the end of Shema, which is the third paragraph, third parchment, יהיה בסוף השיטה, it should be at the end of the line. ממש, really, at the end. להורות על סתימת פרשה. Why is that? Because we want to show that it's closed. סתימת פרשת והיה עם שמוע. We want to show the last one is closed. כתב עוד, so it writes furthermore, שאף על פי שלדעת הראש, even though according to the Rosh, זוהי צורת פתוחה, this is the way of open, right? In other words, this is the machloket between the Rambam and the Rosh, this particular point. According to Rambam, this is closed. According to Rosh, this is open. So it says, we're not going to make now 2 tefillin, right? One according to the Rambam and one according to the Rosh. There's no reason for that. There's no purpose. The whole gavna samchinan al balai tur. So it says, why? Because we rely on the balai tur. Because there is an opinion like this, the balai tur, who says that all the parashiyot should be open. So what does that mean? According to him, right? Even according to the according to the opinion of the Rosh, you're still okay. Katab be'agat b'samak. It says in the Hagat Smak, gloss in the Smak, b'shem Rabbeinu Yechiel, name Rabbeinu Yechiel, tebeshel Rosh Shem Arba Klafim. So he says, when you have the head tefillin, which has 4 parchments, right? 4 separate parchments. And nakpid b'seder k'tivatan. So he says, we're not really so stringent about the order of writing, right? Mihu nahagu gamken yakpid kotvet tefillin. But he says the custom is not like that, right? The custom is that we are particular to write it in the right order. Ad kan hashono. Katvu agul, v'nechem katuv b'kol bo. It's written in these places. B'shem Rabbeinu Peretz, name Rabbeinu Peretz. V'chen katuv b'sefer Orchot Chaim. All these books have this. Katav Mahari Avuhav. Says Mahari Avuhav, she'atam she'mechalkim ben shel rosh shel yad. Why do we make a differentiation between the head tefillin and the arm tefillin? Why do we say that with the head it's not so important, but with the arm it is very crucial? Why is that? So he says the reason is bezehu b'pnei shemiachar teshel rosh hem be'arba klafim. So he says since the head tefillin is 4 separate parchments, each one is separate, and nikar behem im hem ptuchot. It's not really recognizable that it's open or closed because each one is separate. It's not like one. It's not juxtaposed one to the other, or stumot or closed. It doesn't really show. Ad kan. Ve'eni yodea ma inyan heker ptuchot v'stumot le'inyan k'tivat chesidan. So it says Maran. He doesn't agree with this. Mari Avuhav. He says I don't really know what he's trying to say over here. What does that mean? What's the connection, right, between open and closed? Le'inyan k'tivat chesidan, to write it in the right order. What's the connection between one and the other? How does one contingent on the other? That's what he's trying to say. He doesn't agree with that. Dino says Shel Rabbeinu Yechiel. So it says regarding the law of Rabbeinu Yechiel, Davar Tema, he says it's wondrous. Who benai? It's a wonder in my eyes. Since we learn in Mechilta, which is a midrash, right? Halachic midrash. So it says kitaban shelo kesidan. That he says over there, if he wrote in the wrong order, he ganzu. It has to be buried the tefillin. So therefore, right, he's very stringent about that in Mechilta. So why is he so lenient? That's what he's trying to say, right? That's what he's trying to. Right. Ha nami shelo kesidan hu. So that's also not in the right order, right? V'chen nireh shehu dat poskim. So that's also the poskim. Shelo chilku ben shel rosh shel yad. So what is he trying to say? That there's, according to most poskim and according to this midrash, there's no difference between the arm tefillin and the head tefillin. It's all the same. What does that mean? You have to be precise when it comes to the order. So it says, right, the Rabbeinu, the Tur, in Lamed Daled, in the chapter Lamed Daled, we're going to get to that very soon. Even according to Rabbeinu Tam, who has a different order in the Parshiot, as we already mentioned, you do have to write them in the order that they're written. In the Torah. Shu Kadesh, first Kadesh, and then the second one, and that's what it says in Tosfot. Rosh and Mordechai, Samag, Truma, Azal, Vechen Halacha. That's the Halacha it says. Okay, very interesting. Let's see the Shulchan Aruch on this. It's a long piece, right? So we got to get some clarity here. Shulchan Aruch, hopefully. Which one was this? This was. Lamed Vav, okay. 36. We're doing Lamed Vav in Shulchan Aruch. Very good. So says Shulchan Aruch. Yaseh kol haparshiot, parshiotea petuchot. So it says you should make all the parshiot open. Chutz mi parsha achrona, except the last one, right? As we said. Haktuva b'Torah, which is written in the Torah. Shehi ve'ayam shamua. So the last parsha is ve'ayam shamua, which is the second paragraph of the Shema. Right? That one should be closed. Stuma. Shiasena stuma. Ve'im shina, says if he changed it, pasul, right? There you go. So what does that mean? You got to be careful, right, when it comes to this. And this is the problem, by the way, that there are some, as we said, right, who do like according to the Taz. We're going to see, maybe in the Mishnah Berurah, he brings it over here. Maybe that we'll see the Taz inside itself. But the point is, right, that there's another opinion, as we already saw. There's several opinions. But the Taz does it a different way than Shulchan Aruch. And therefore, right, according to Shulchan Aruch, the way of the Taz is pasul. And some of the Ashkenazim, they do it like the Taz. This is the problem. Not all of them. Some of them do. So therefore, you got to be careful. When you're buying from Ashkenazim, you got to make sure that it's done according to Shulchan Aruch. If you're Sephardi, make sure it's done according to Shulchan Aruch, not according to the Taz. Okay, so we're going to see a little bit more about that. So says the Ramah over here, it's actually in the parentheses. There's also another opinion which says that they should be all open, right? As we saw in the Beit Yosef, he brings us in the name of the Balai Tur, which is one of the Rishonim, right? So according to Balai Tur, it's all open, it's kosher, but according to Maran, Shulchan Aruch, not kosher. Okay, so then it goes on. So it says the Ramah like this: in these countries, right, in Ashkenazim, so he says the custom is that when they do even the last, parsha v'yayim shamua, they start in the beginning of the line, kishar parshiot, like the other parshiot. So what does that mean? They're doing like the Rosh, and this is the problem. You see, when you do like the Rosh, so then, you got a problem according to the Rambam, right? It's not like the Rambam, as we said, right? When it comes to this point, the Rosh and the Rambam, they diverge in this halacha. So therefore, right, you got to make up your mind, right? What do you want to be? Which side do you want to be? You want to be Ashkenazi? You want to be Sfardi? Like make up your mind and stay there, right? Don't change. So if you want to be Sfaradi, do like Maran. If you want to be Ashkenazi, then you do like the Rama. So which is like the Rosh, as we said, and Maran goes like the Rambam. Lachem nagu parashat kadeshli. So it says in the Shulchan Aruch like this. Therefore, the custom is like this. Okay, this is the custom. So parashat kadeshli, the first parashat kadeshli, right, which is in Shemot, as we said, right, Exodus 13. And the second parsha, which is also right after that, to juxtaposed. Parashat Shema, also Shema, which is in Deuteronomy, Vav. Matchilin berosh shita. So what do? They're starting at the beginning of the line always, because it has to be open. It's called open, right? V'sof kadeshli, but at the end of kadeshli, which is the first parsha, v'sof v'ayim shel kiviacha, and also the end of the second parsha, menichim chalak k'dei lichtov tet otiyot. We leave open space there, right? Blank for 9 letters, as we mentioned. This is called ptucha. It's open. U'basov Shema, in the beginning of the Shema, it says, "En manichim chalak." We don't leave any open space at the end of Shema. Why? Because we want that one to be closed. That's the whole thing. So the first two, again, right? The first two, they start in the beginning of the letter of the line, no margin there, right at the beginning, and when they end, they leave like a 9-letter blank space. The first two. The third one, Shema, there you should finish on the bottom in the middle of the line. What does that mean? Leave over there nine spaces, because that one has to be stuma, closed. So then, right, what happens is that the Ayam Shamua, right, which is the last one, we start in the middle of the line. What does that mean? On the top. So why is that? What does that mean, middle of the line? That means that we leave 9 spaces again, right? Same thing, 9 letters, open. And we leave it before blank space to write 9 letters. So it comes out that the first 3 parshiot are open. Ben Rambam, Ben Rosh. Whether it's Rambam Rosh, we're going to there's no machloket. There's no dispute about that. The first 3. But the last parsha, right, which is V'ayam Shamua, Stuma Ledat Rambam. According to Rambam, it's closed. As we said, right, according to Rambam, according to Rosh, it's open, but we Sfardim go like the Rambam. In Ashkenazim, they go like the Rosh, as the Ramah said. Okay, very good. That's this whole story there. Any questions about this, by the way? Okay, I guess everybody's silent. Okay. You have the right to remain silent, as they say. All right, it's good. Let's go on to the next one. Which is Lamed Chet. No, Lamed Zayin we have to do. Which is, I think, if I'm mistaken. No, we already did it. 1 second. Yeah. Okay, we have to do Lamed Zayin. Let's see if we can find it. That's the question. 37. This is 38. Ah, here it is. Okay. 37. Now we're going to go back to the Torah, right? Now it's coming to tell you, right, what kind of material do the straps have to be made out of, or the Tefillin in general? Right? What does the Tefillin have to be made out of? What material do we make it out of? So here we go. Let's see the Torah. So it says the Torah like this. So you should make the 4 compartments of the head, tefillin, you make it from one piece of leather, right? It should be like 1 piece. So it has to be from a kosher animal, right? Kosher species of animal, whether it's domesticated or wild. Today, everybody uses right cow hides, right? That's pretty much because they're strong and thick and nice and good. So cow is the best, really. Ox, whatever, right? That's because it's nice and strong. It's very durable, So That's what we usually use. But you can really use anything which is a kosher species of animal. Even if though it's not a kosher, right, slaughter, right? It wasn't slaughtered kosher, but the fact that it's a kosher species is enough. Okay. Rambam katab she'en tzarich la'ibud ishman. So according to Rambam, you don't need that it should be made for the sake of the mitzvah, right? This the tefillin. We're not talking about the parchments, right? The parchments we already discussed before. We're talking here about now the capsules. But the Rosh says you have to do it for the sake of the mitzvah. He also writes this like the Rosh. Rabbi Cohen Tzedek. Katuv. Okay, that's it. Let's see the Bet Yosef. Let's see Bet Yosef. Okay, so says Bet Yosef. Umash katav me'or behema chaya be'ov teorim. As we said, right, you have to use kosher species of animal. Where is this in Shabbat? Kaf chet amud bet. Lo uchshiru lemelechet shamayim ela or behema teora. So he says, when it comes to the work of heaven, right, all kinds of heavenly things, right, spiritual, whatever, right, only we use the hide of a kosher species of animal. So what are we talking about here, right? Which mitzvah are we talking about? Tefillin. We're talking about tefillin. So when it comes to tefillin, you have to use a kosher species. Tefillin b'yad katibo. So it says when it comes to tefillin, it's written in the Torah. So what are you teaching me, right? It says explicitly in the Torah. What does that mean? It says leman tiyeh Torah Adonai b'ficha, like mina mutar b'ficha. It says it should be in your mouth. So what does that mean? The rabbis darshan, it should be something which can be put in your mouth to eat, right? That's the idea. It's kosher. If you ela be'orech leoran, right? So it says that we're talking about the leather, right? In other words, not the parchment. We're talking about the capsules. Rashi explains leoran or the fus shenahen. So we're talking about the leather which is made into the capsules. Shektavim shel parshiot munachin bo. And the parshiot are placed in that capsule, in those boxes, right? And objects over there that Rabbi said, Shin shel tefillin halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That the shin of the tefillin that has to be done on the tefillin on the capsule is a tradition from Har Sinai, oral tradition. Rashi, Rashi explains, so he says, since the this letter of the shin, right, is written by indentation. Shelo mutar beficha I'm sorry. By indenting it. Mutar beficha bainan. So therefore, we need something which has to be in your mouth, as we said, right, like the verse. So it comes out of the verse. So therefore, it says the Gemara. The conclusion over there is that what are we talking about here? Even the straps have to be from a kosher species. Straps of the tefillin. That's why today also, right, that we make the straps also from cowhide. Right, that's what we do. Again, right, because it's very durable and good, good quality. It lasts a long time. So that's what you want, So it comes out, right? Everything has to be done like that, right? Whether it's the parshiot, the parchment, whether it's the capsules, and also whether it's the straps. Everything has to be from a kosher species. And he goes on, even if it's not slaughtered properly, as we said, it says over there, Shabbat Kuf Chet Amud Aleph, Aminan, the Nevelot Utzefot, the Tehorot, Mina Mutar, Beficha Hu, Kotvin Orot Shenahen. So it says in the Gemara over there that even though it's not slaughtered properly, so it's not you can't really eat that animal, but since it's a kosher species, you're allowed to use it. That's what it says in the Gemara in Shabbat. Umash Katav Rabbeinu B'Shem Rambam, and that was the Torah said, name of the Rambam, Shen Tzarich Ibud Ishman, that you don't have to process it, right, for the sake of the mitzvah. Ken Katav Per Gimel, that's what it says in the Rambam, Per Gimel Tefillin, Halacha Tetvav, the or Shem Mechafin Bo, so it says the leather that they cover it with, Eno Tzarich Ibud Klal, it doesn't really need processing at all. Afilu asao matzah kasher, even if you made it matzah kasher, u'mekamot she'arbe nahagu la'asot otan be'or matzah. Right? Okay. So it says there are many places where they use the hide of the matzah, right? I don't know what matzah is exactly. Some kind of animal, I guess. It's not matzot, right? Like we eat on Pesach. I don't think he's talking about that. Okay. Whatever that is. Umash katav Rabbeinu she'arosh katav she'tzarich libud lishman. Is that what the Rabbeinu said, the Tur? That the Rosh requires that this will also be made for the sake of the mitzvah. B'ilchot tefillin, laws of tefillin. Siman Gimel. Aha, the Tam Rabbanan. That which is said in the Menachot. Remember the Mudbet. There's a writer there. Sipan zahav. If he covered it with gold, or shetala alehem or he hung on it some leather, whatever, some hide, or behemat tamea, which is a non-kosher hide species. Tamea, it's pasul, or behemat torah. But if it was kosher species, it's kosher. Even though he didn't process it for the sake of the mitzvah. And Rashbag, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, he says, Omer, af or behemat torah psulot ad she'avdenu lishman. But he says no. Even if you're using a kosher species, it still has to be processed for the sake of the mitzvah. Katav Rosh, says the Rosh, B'ilchot Sefer Torah, laws of Sefer Torah, Katabti de halacha k'Rashbag. So says the Rosh, halacha is like the Rashbag, the Baya Ibud Ishma, that we do require processing for the sake of the mitzvah. Therefore, he says, Haklaf ve'atzrot, the parchment and the straps, the or batim, and also the capsules, kulam tzrichim Ibud Ishma. They all have to be processed for the sake of the mitzvah. That's what it says in the Smag. וכן כתב בספר תרומה, ספר תרומה, וזה לשונו, this is language. וכן אור בתים והרצועות, is also the hide of the capsules and the straps. צריך עיבוד לשמן, you also have to make them for the sake of the mitzvah. דברייתא ציפן זהב באור בתים מהירה. Because this brayta that we just mentioned is talking about the leather of the capsules. With Rambam, according to Rambam, tzarich lomar shehu mefresh. How does he explain this Gemara? Right? How does he learn it out? Even though the beginning of the brayta is talking about the leather of the hide of the capsules, but the end of it is talking about the klaf. It's talking about the parchment. That they're written in there, and also the straps, and not with the covering, which is the capsules. So he says, you know why? Since it's just coming to cover the parchment, so therefore it doesn't really require so much attention to detail, right? It doesn't mean to be made for the sake of the mitzvah, right? The whole shehu me'or matzah. This is whatever it comes. If it comes from something of leather, hide, hu yoter chazak en lomar she'et tzarich ibud ishma. You don't really need to have processing for the sake of the mitzvah. It says Vedikabait, Einami Shehu Posek Tanakama. Or maybe another way to learn the Rambam is that he paskins like the first opinion, not like Rashbag. Right? And the first opinion says you don't need it. Adkan. So now he sums up the halacha, right? Man. What's halacha? Kevan de Rabin Pligi ale Rambam. So he says, since many poskin, the majority of poskin, argue with the Rambam, the Gam Ki Pashtat de Braita, and also it's a simple understanding of the Braita and the Gemara. Mashma kivatayu, so therefore we go like them. Achinaktina. In other words, the Talmud is also implies like them. You know, so we have two things, right? One is that the Talmud implies like those poskim, and also they're the majority. So therefore we leave the Rambam here behind, right? With all due respect, and we go against him. That's what he's saying, right? The Gam ki pashtat de Braita mashma kivatayu. Therefore, we pass like that, and therefore, what do we say? That you do require, right, to be made for the sake of the mitzvah, and the processing of the leather, whether it's the capsules, whether it's the straps, right, and whether it's the parchments, all of them. So he says, but he says you can't find capsules that were made for the sake of the mitzvah. So then he says you should do like the Rambam. In other words, you have no choice, right? and there's no other tefillin that you can purchase or to obtain for now, right? Let's say you're in Iceland, right? Like our friend that went to Iceland, right? Remember that guy, David, right? Not this David, right? The little David, different David. So he went to Iceland over there. There was no Judaica store there, so whatever, right? So where are you gonna find something over there? So if you're in a tight hole, tight space, you can't find something which is done the proper way. So you can rely on the Rambam that he says is kosher, even though it wasn't processed for the sake of the mitzvah. Katuv b'Sefer HaTumah. So it says in Sefer HaTumah, she'achol la'asotan miklaf shegam hu nikra or. So you can also make it from parchment. The capsules also. So the capsules you can make from parchment. Tanya, because it says in the Braita, iktavem ala ba'orot. You should write them on the 4 parchments. Or shalil. Okay, we're almost finished. Just a couple of minutes. So it says. So it says from the leather of the from the skin of the, I think it's talking about the placenta, even though it's considered to be like flesh, regarding tuma, the tama mishum de lo gara or. So in other words, you can use the placenta of the animal. That's what he's trying to say. Right? That's also called skin. The tama mishum de lo gara or of the kasher. So it says the reason is because it's not any less than the leather of the birds, right, which is also kosher, skin of the birds. Like it says in Shmona Shmatzim, over there in the Gemara. Even though we're going tuma, it's called flesh, it's not called skin, it's not called hide. Katav od sheish amrim says there also. He writes furthermore, there are those who say the or shlil, that the skin of the placenta. Yoter hagun the mitzvah. It says it's actually the best way to do the mitzvah. Kilo navda bo avera. So it says there was no sin done there with that skin. Okay, whatever. Shelo haya bo tashmish shel zachar v'nekeva, because there was no there was no fornication there, right? No sex act. V'chen katvu b'samag. That's what it says in the smag. And Mordechai also Mordechai. Okay, whatever. I don't think we're too particular about that, right? To use the placenta in our times. With all due respect, let's see the Shulchan Aruch and we're done, right? I don't want to keep you too long. Okay. So it says in the Shulchan Aruch, or batim shetzarich liot meor behema v'chaya ve'of torim. So as we said, right, that the capsules have to be made from leather, which comes from a kosher species of animal. It could be even a bird. Even it's not kosher. The slaughter was not kosher. Also, you can make it from parchment, right? Or from, right, as we said, the skin of the placenta. It says the Rama, right? Says the Rama also, you can also make the straps. You could also make it from parchment. Wow, that's funny. The or shalil, and also you can make it with the skin of the placenta. So says the Shulchan Aruch in the end, it has to be processed for the sake of the mitzvah, not like the Rambam, right? As we said, right? You don't go like the Rambam. He says whenever it's possible. So whenever it's possible, you should do it the proper way, right? For the sake of the mitzvah. If it's not possible, then we rely on the Rambam until we get a nice set of tefillin, right? That's the idea. Okay, we can rely on the Rambam. He's definitely enough to rely on in a shat of chak in a time of need. Okay, very good. So Chazak Baruch, thanks for being with us. It was a nice class today. Baruch Hashem, we got something done, and we're moving along good. Shabbat Shalom. God bless you. Be well, blessed with wealth, health, happiness, all the good things. Lots of joy, and be blessed with all the good things. Baruch Hashem.
Amen. Thank you, Kavod Harav.
God bless.
Thank you so much.
All the best.